It's not for real, not yet. Boot camp, basic training for raw recruits to Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade. They're needed more than ever, not just because soldiers are being killed, but because others are fighting for months without a break. So maybe yesterday's US-Ukraine ceasefire proposal is welcome, a moment to reach out to the Russians.
If it goes through, it's just a short peace for them to prepare for another attack.
Do you trust the Americans?
No, I don't trust. People are different from governments, right? Trump is a person who has no honor, in my perspective, right? He's a businessman. He's trying to sell things. He's trying to look good, but he doesn't care about our country. He doesn't care about other countries.
Their president sees this as his opportunity to prove to President Trump that it's Russia, not Ukraine, standing in the way of peace.
Today, everything depends on whether Russia wants a ceasefire or to continue killing people. Today, it fully depends on this country. The United States of America demonstrated its steps and its position. Ukraine demonstrated and outlined its positions in a very direct way, without any reservations. And Russia will have to answer to that.
The US Secretary of State left the Jeddah talks, suggesting that if Russia doesn't agree to the 30-day ceasefire, it could be a clarifying moment.
We're going to say that Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin the immediate process of negotiating an enduring end to the war, and we'll see what their response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate, and it would make their intentions clear.
But the Russians feel they're winning on the battlefield. Their military bloggers have released footage to show they've retaken most of Kursk, the part of Russia Ukrainian troops moved into last summer. Today, state media said their forces had entered the town of Sudzha. Russia is unlikely to agree to cease fire, at least until Ukrainian forces have been defeated in Kursk. The Russian foreign minister is blaming Europe for the continuation of the war.
Europe and the UK, they certainly want this to continue. The way they received Zelensky in London after the scandal in Washington, and it's an indication that they want to raise the stakes, and they are preparing something to pressure Trump administration back into some aggressive action against Russia.
Back at boot camp, Dmytro is not expecting peace. He joined up the moment he turned 18.
In my opinion, I think that would be impossible to have peace with Russia. So I would be fighting with Russia forever. So.
Why will it be impossible to have a peace deal with Russia?
Because Russia is like imperialistic country. So for imperialistic country, it's important to occupy other countries.
So do you think you'll be fighting all your life?
Yep.
Ukrainian soldiers are relieved that US intelligence and military aid has been restored. But nothing that's happened in the last 24 hours makes them believe that the end of the war is any closer.
Lindsay Hilson in Ukraine. Well, Sir Richard Sheriff is a retired British Army officer who was NATO's Deputy Supreme Commander Europe from 2011 to 2014, and he joins me now from Salisbury. Good evening. In the last few days, you've been extremely critical of Donald Trump. I think you wrote an article saying it was worse than appeasement of Nazi Germany, the way he was behaving. But it now appears that Ukraine and Europe and Britain are all going along with it. Are they wrong?
I think the ceasefire, and this is a Ukrainian proposal, the Ukrainians have accepted the proposal for ceasefire. So this is a clever move, I think, by President Zelensky, designed to force a moment of clarity. If Russia refuses, the illusion of diplomacy collapses. If Russia accepts the ceasefire, then the real test begins. The question is whether and when Washington will recognize when Russia inevitably breaks that ceasefire, as it absolutely certainly will, because nothing can trust Russia. And that will allow Russia once again to dictate the terms of reality to President Trump and the rest of the American regime.
And so would that be your view of any peace deal that were to come out of this ceasefire if it were to happen? There's a lot of ifs there, I accept. But do you think Russia would always end up breaking any peace?
Absolutely. Absolutely, no question about it. It'll manufacture an excuse, it'll stage an attack, it'll flood the information space with fabricated so-called evidence that Ukraine has violated the deal, it'll claim victimhood, it'll weaponize diplomacy. Russia cannot be trusted because, and this is in a sense the naivety of the White House, that Russia has only ever been an empire. If Russia listened to that young 18-year-old recruit wearing a black balaclava talking to your interviewer, they would understand that Russia is an imperial state that will never stop until it has dismembered Ukraine, brought it back under the Russian Empire, removed it from the map as a sovereign state. And the only thing that is going to force Russia to stop is if Russia is firmly stopped and defeated. And that clearly, right now, is not on the cards. So this peace deal, most likely, if it happens, is going to allow Putin to declare victory and to stage another attack when he's ready. And then we're back in the business again.
Indeed. Well, the idea of Russian defeat, as you say, is off the table. But European defense chiefs have been meeting in the last couple of days to talk about what they can do to support Ukraine. Now, Russia is very, very clear. It will not accept NATO forces on its border in Ukraine. So what do these talks amount to? I mean, are we pivoting to a policy instead of how the outside world gives weaponry and resource to the Ukraine army to defend itself?
With America having declared effectively that it's in bed with Putin, and giving President Zelensky the disgraceful hard time it did a couple of weeks ago, Europe, the only hope, frankly, for Ukraine now is for Europe to step up. And it's great that the European defense ministers are meeting as they are. Europe has got to dig deep, make sacrifices, and really give Ukraine the means to not only survive, but to thrive. And then longer term, on the assumption that America will not back NATO in the way that it has for 76 years, now start looking at how Europe, and Canada, of course, fills the gap.
Sir Richard Sheriff, thank you very much indeed for joining us.